Hello and welcome to another episode of the Screened In podcast. Here on the Screened In podcast, we talk about anything that's on our screens. That's TV, movies, anime, video games. If it's on a screen, we're probably talking about it. Today's episode, Netflix takes over our podcast kingdom as Eleven steps out of her cave to save her starving people. But I know one social media player, John, that's not starving because now we're on it, baby. We're on YouTube. My name's Mike Burden, and joining me, some call him Broccoli because he's esteemed. Ladies and gentlemen, dragons of all ages, it's John Artiglaire. How you doing, John?
Oh man, that was a great intro burger, and I'll admit that broccoli joke was going right over my head. I caught that puppy at the wall, stretching back, just barely got it before it went over.
You barely
Oh,
caught it. You're like,
I
oh, here
was
it is.
like, I was like, what is he gonna do here? Calling me broccoli? How am I gonna improv this? And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I got it. I got it. Oh my goodness.
So on
Yeah,
this episode, we watched Damsel on Netflix.
yeah. A movie that I didn't know much about, but once I found out about it, I was pretty hyped up for it. Was it like I think you might have mentioned this for me. Kelsey said we saw a trailer at some point. I don't remember it. But do you was this a movie you were looking forward to, or did you just kind of find this?
I actually saw it immediately as it came out, or the day before it came or it dropped on Netflix. I think that Netflix advertised it pretty, uh
Oh yeah.
yeah, it
This was
was
like
up
front
there.
page.
Yeah, for sure. So, I think they're like, "Hey, it's 11. You like
Yep.
her?
You know her,
Watch
right?
this."
You remember?
But or maybe you don't know, I'm a really, really, really big fan of trailers. Have I talked about this on this podcast?
I don't think you've ever said that you're like a big fan of them. I usually don't watch them. Like,
Okay,
I love them, but now I feel like they give away too much.
well, that's the thing. On this podcast, what has been really exciting is that sometimes it's great when you give a suggestion and you go in, like, completely blind
Yeah,
into it, and we have so much fun doing that all the time because then we have no clue what's going on. Like, very beginning of the movie, we just don't know what to expect, and it's one of the best ways that we've learned to watch a movie or a TV or
yeah,
anime
and
is
then
just going in
sometimes
completely blind.
sometimes it's Mabaroshi. So it's
It's not it's it's sometimes it's a Mabaroshi episode where we're like, "Hey, this looks really cool. Let's
yeah.
watch it." And then we're like, I don't
Ooh,
know."
I'm like, "Oh, burger, I'm sorry."
Yeah.
No, but yeah,
No. Hey,
I
you know
get it,
what?
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes those are just as fun if we don't
It
like them.
I mean, it's always a great surprise when, like, something just pops up on your radar and, within a day of finding out it exists, you're watching it and you're like, "This is amazing. Like, how did I not know about this?"
For sure, for sure. But this one, I it was front page of Netflix, watched the trailer,
Mhm.
seemed to be dang good. At least from the trailer, it
Yeah.
was. I actually got,
Ooh.
inundated from I guess because you know how it works, you say a couple things out loud and suddenly your phone knows everything
Yep.
about you, and
Zuckerberg's in a van outside. He's
right,
listening in the whole time.
exactly. So somehow I didn't even look for them, and I was finding the ratings to this movie before I
Oh.
even watched it.
Oh, so you were
Yeah.
okay. Is that good or bad?
I think it's good because it helped
Okay.
me set expectations, I think.
Okay.
Um But it could have influenced how I watched the movie, for sure. I think I came
Mhm.
in with maybe some biases. But, so, yeah, we weren't aware of this movie. I guess Kelsey told you you watched the trailer at some
To
point,
her, it
but
seemed familiar. Like, she was like, "No, I think we saw because we went to the theater twice recently." And she's like, "This
oh,
was one of the trailers." And I was like, "Was it?" I was like, "If it was, I don't remember it."
yeah.
But, from the trailer I did see, I was like, "Okay, you got, like, Millie Bobby Brown with a broadsword." I'm like, "This looks like it's gonna be awesome." Um, I think I did the classic John move, and I didn't finish watching the trailer. I think I went into this movie
Sounds right.
yeah, I think I went into this one thinking it was gonna be more, I don't know, like an adventure. I knew the
Mhm.
concept of she was gonna get dumped somewhere, but I thought it was gonna be her just, like, traversing and trying to get back to the kingdom, which was
Right.
definitely not what it really was.
No, because like,
Um,
Kingdom's right there, and
yeah.
the mountain's right there.
Yeah,
They're
she's just, like, out
they're
back.
like a mile apart from each other.
Ugh. Um, I guess, like, should
So
we give, like, a
it
little
seems.
rundown of what this movie is?
Yeah, you got a little synopsis for us, John?
Oh, this is perfect. It's one sentence. Uh, a dutiful damsel agrees to marry a handsome prince, only to find the royal family has recruited her as a sacrifice to repay an ancient debt.
They've recruited her?
You know, you had to point it out. You had to
I
point
think
it
I
out.
mispronounced my own name in the intro, so it's
Hey,
fine.
I didn't say anything. I was going to. Mike Berber.
My
Uh Yeah, it's yeah, so that's what the movie is she thinks, I guess what time period is this? How do you categorize this time period?
I think we're just, like, medieval.
Medieval, there we go. I could not
Yeah,
think of like a word. But yeah,
it's
it's
like
like medieval
it's
times.
medieval, there's dragons, this is fantasy. It's your classic
Spoilers,
fantasy.
burger.
What?
I said spoilers. What?
I mean, if you watch the trailer, you know there's a dragon pretty much right away.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah,
so
she gets go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, 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 you sir.
Oh, you owe me a Coke. But also, um, yeah, so that we can we're not gonna go through the whole plot here, but I think
No.
what will set it up is, like, what we believe to be true, and obviously, we're spoiling some of the movie plot here, so we don't go super in depth. If you've never watched the podcast, we don't typically go super in depth,
No.
although we might. I don't know, we'll see where we
Yeah,
take
it'll
this.
get spoiled though, for
We'll
sure.
we're gonna put spoiler warnings out there. So this movie, the whole concept is her people are starving. Her dad
Mhm.
brings her to another land. He's gonna get a boatload of gold for her marrying this prince, but they think it's just like a transaction, which
Yeah.
marriage is during that time and the fantasy age.
Mhm.
Were transactional. So he's
Yeah.
getting a lot of gold. He's gonna be able to feed his people. She's gonna live in this wonderful place. Everything looks pretty fantastic. Now, stepmother
Mhm.
is like, something doesn't feel right. She's the only one
Yeah,
who
she
kept
knows right
going.
away.
Yeah. So here's the thing, the marriage kind of like, I don't know if it was supposed to be the ceremony or what, but she goes to a mountaintop, a lot of creepy cult like masks being worn, and she gets dumped into a very large cavern. And this is where the true movie begins.
Yeah. And it actually took quite a bit to get there, I feel like.
Okay, so this is one of the things I wanted to talk about
Oh,
this about
perfect.
of this movie. So I did something that truly made me feel 35 at heart,
Oh, boy.
which is I nodded off, but
Oh, okay.
not like I didn't like truly fall asleep when I was watching this,
You were
but
resting your eyes.
I'm sitting there at my couch and I'm just kind of feeling it, and I'm like, "What? Like, just like not even 5 minutes. It's just like this 2-minute window of me kinda falling and my head picking back up, but I'm pretty sure I watched at least 95% of the movie.
Okay. Alright, hey, still a
But
good percentage. That's
I
passing. That's
I
an A.
honestly think that that wasn't necessarily my fault,
No,
and this movie runs at a runtime of an hour and 40, and you coulda fooled me because it felt like 2:30.
yeah, it definitely coulda got chopped down a little bit. I feel like the first half of this like, it's not half, probably what, first quarter
Mhm.
before she gets dumped in there, you could trick someone into thinking this is like a Hallmark original, like just some, "Oh,
Yeah.
fantasy, kind of movie until really it's that she gets to the sacrifice. Because even leading up
Yeah.
to that, it's just kind of like, oh, maybe, oh, is this family not what they seem? Oh, like you don't really, there's no indication that she's going to get full on sacrificed.
Good
It all
point.
kind of changes when the two mothers meet. And she's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm trying to be friends. Oh, we're gaining family." And that's when like she, like you said, outlines it as like this is strictly a transaction. Like we have family. We don't need family. You're not family. This is a transaction. And I until that point, yeah, I kind of agree with you. I was starting to like look at my phone a little bit. I was like, okay, like man, how's she gonna adventure all across this land in like an hour? Like I thought she'd be doing this already.
Yeah. Once we get in
But
the cave, it's pretty shortly after that that we're met with this dragon now. I don't
mhm.
know about you, John, but I think I need to adjust the settings on my TV because boy, was it dark. Were you feeling that too?
Um, I don't think it was too dark to the point where I was like, "Oh, man, I can't see." But, I mean,
Okay.
half this movie is in a
I
cave.
think I need to
Like,
mess with my TV settings because I was like, "Yo, I can't see anything. What's
oh,
happening here?"
I did say it made it really cool, though, when the dragon did breathe its, like, fire,
Oh,
and
yeah,
I love that it, like, looked liquidy. Like, it wasn't just fire. It had,
right.
like it was almost like lava coming out.
Oh, yeah,
So, like,
yeah,
it
for
would
sure.
kind of fill these caverns, and I thought it just looked really cool in that like you said, it's very dark, it's a cave, it's drab, and then now your whole screen is lit up with this really, I mean, amazing looking CGI, I would imagine. Fire to but no, I could see where you're coming from though, with it being a little dark.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's actually kinda hard to talk about this movie like, we talk around some movies,
Mhm.
and we'll talk about plot and actors, but really, if you think about it, um, if you really think about it, this particular movie is one of those where Millie Bobby Brown was probably alone filming this for quite some time,
It's always weird
acting
when I start thinking about that.
yeah, acting toward something or herself or the
Yeah.
environment.
A guy in a green screen suit with a
Right,
dragon head on a stick, just, like, walking
exactly,
around, like,
yes,
th
but
it
she's
really
also seeing and starting to understand that there are all of these other, princesses that have been dumped down into this
yeah.
particular cavern, and even gives us, like, glimpses of what they might have been doing in the cavern.
I did really like that. They like she kept finding, like, these kinda clues of, like, safe spots, or I think one
Yeah.
of the biggest ones is, like, she thinks she kinda found a way out,
Mhm.
and then it turns out it's a dead end, and, like, she, like, sits there and there's the skeleton of the other princess that made it there,
Yeah.
and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." Like, okay, like, I love the fact that she's finding like, it makes you wonder, like, "Man, like, how long has this been going?" I think it said, like in the beginning, it said a couple like, hundreds of years later, like, 100 years later or something like that, so,
Yeah.
um, I mean, she's trucking around, she's finding these safe spots and everything, like we said, and the next quarter of this movie or yeah, I would say quarter, she it goes away after a while, is her just heavily breathing while getting hurt. It's her essentially doing the Peter Griffin, like, holding her knee.
Oh, yeah, she gets
It's
burned a lot.
constant. Oh, yeah, that one's brutal, but, like, when she falls in the cave and then, like, she slides into somewhere and gets hurt, and then she does something else and gets hurt, and I'm
Oh,
like,
you're
"Man, oh,
right.
man."
I
And
didn't
then,
even
when she gets burned, though, we were
yeah.
talking about that fire looking good.
Yeah.
There's a shot of her leg that I was like, "Oh," I'm like, "That's brutal looking." I'm like,
It's
"There's
pretty
a
rough.
chunk out of that leg." But, yeah, it's,
But her dad comes looking for her
oh,
eventually.
yeah, 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 that's It
That's where things kinda turn, and her dad was like her dad clearly knew what he was doing. Like,
yeah,
at
I
the
was
beginning of
kinda
the movie,
hoping he
we could
didn't,
tell he
but
was not stoked about it. There was something that was wrong. He was not excited to be selling off his daughter. He knew that they were gonna be doing this to her, and he comes to try to rescue her with really only, like, 2 other dudes and a scout.
yeah.
Like, not a whole lotta guys, and I'm like, "Okay, so that's interesting."
Yeah,
Um,
he shows up with, like, a guy who knows the area and, like, 2 of his guards, and he's like, "Alright, we're gonna take on a dragon now,"
yeah, and
and
he's
it
like
goes
he's not in the prime of his life at this point. He's Robert Baratheon, basically. Like,
yeah, actually, yeah.
he's gonna, like, he could get killed by a boar at this point. He's not, really gonna
Yeah, he's
do
not
a
an
whole
in
lot to a
shape
dragon.
man.
No.
I'm actually trying to think, do you know who the voice of the dragon was?
Ooh, good question. We should look that up.
I couldn't think because, like, at certain points, I thought I knew it, but I can't really see I don't know really know who it was, but if you wanna look that up, like, I really liked the dragon in this movie. I thought the performance, whoever was doing the voice was like that kinda snake, kinda slithery kinda voice. Um, they're brutal throughout it. I think, the design and everything was really cool, like, whenever they breathe fire, I love seeing it, like, come up the neck, like, it was, like you could see it, like, started to, like, light up. Did you find it?
No, because
Alright, well, we
they
tried.
don't have this clearly marked really.
I was gonna
Uh,
say, I was looking at the cast, and I'm like, "Well, it would help if I knew the name of the dragon."
Shora Agdashlo. I'm
Oh,
probably
okay.
butchering that name.
I can't imagine. Yeah, I don't know, like, yeah, it's weird, it doesn't really have it listed easily.
It's a, female voice. Did I not realize that?
I could see that. It's somewhat of, like, a high-pitched voice.
I've seen her in other things. That's very clear to me, and she's been at Comic-Con, so I'm, like, wondering who this lady is, but, um,
At one point in the movie, I thought it was Alan Cumming. I was like, "What in the world?" I
okay,
was like, "Is that Alan I was like, "No, I don't think it
she's
is."
Iranian. She's an Iranian American actress.
Okay.
So, that was who voiced I think she probably I don't know, I thought she was really cool. Oh, she's in Arcane,
Oh,
the League
okay.
of Legends show, so we might know
Can't
her
wait for
from
that.
that. She was in clearly did some type of voice or something in Ghostbusters: The Afterlife, which I did see with, Paul Rudd.
I just saw that one actually recently.
That's not bad.
Paid
Not bad
money
at
to
all.
rent that so I could
Oh,
watch the new one that's coming out. It had
gotcha.
always been on my list, and I was like, "It's gotta be streaming somewhere." Of course
She's
it
been in
wasn't.
X-Men: The Last Stand. She's clearly done a lot of voice acting, I can tell. So, yeah,
Yeah, she did
that's her. I'm not gonna pronounce her name again.
yeah. There's a lot of good acting in this. I mean, Millie Bobby Brown, we were kinda talking before we started how, like, we were joking about her getting out of that role of 11.
Yeah,
Um, while watching Stranger Things, I always thought she was gonna be shot, like, that was gonna be her role,
yeah.
and she would never break out of it, but she's broken out more than anybody from that show.
Yeah,
Like,
also
well, the
too,
kids at
she's,
least.
like, deeply internet famous kind of because like, there's I'm always coming across, uh, on TikTok or, like, YouTube or whatever, like, a video or something, or she's on late night or, like, she's
Mhm.
clearly got, like, staying power at this
Yeah, she
point.
makes the rounds, and she
Yeah,
does very like, she's very good with press and everything, and, yeah, I
sure.
mean, what's the other big Netflix movie she has? Enola Holmes or something like that? I think there's 2 of those now.
Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
No, I didn't
I
either.
want to. It's one of those movies that when I think about watching a movie, it's never one that comes to mind. Like, but I've heard it's good, and, she's I mean, she's blowing up. I mean, what is she, like, 22 years old or something like that? Like, she's young.
Right.
So she's got a career ahead of her, I
For
would
sure.
imagine. Like, she's gonna be going for a long time. I mean, I think that she'll still always kinda have Stranger Things looming over her.
Yeah.
Um, even just looking up reviews of this movie, one of the first reviews I saw, it's just, uh, "This well photographed and rousing tale with the Stranger Things star," then it continues, but I'm like, they don't even call her by name. They just call her the Stranger Things star, which is wild to me. But I think, I think she did well in this movie, and I really enjoy Robin Wright, like the evil kind of queen in this movie.
Oh
I
god.
think I think she always does really great. I mean, she's an established actress, has been around
When she was,
for a
in
long
House of
time.
Cards,
Yeah.
wow, she would, yeah, she was pretty, impressive in that for sure.
That's when I really got introduced to her. Like, I mean, I think when watching House of Cards, that's when I found out she was Jenny in Forrest Gump.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
How did I not realize that?
I would never know. It's not like I put it together
Whoa.
myself, but
That feels like a totally different person.
yeah. So, like, she's been around
That threw
a
me.
while.
Yeah, oh, we always talk about, uh not always, but we just did a episode on Avatar: The Last Airbender, the Netflix live action series, and we had some discussion about, CGI,
Mhm.
and sometimes that CGI might have let us down a few times during that series. So, my question to you, John, is, how did you like the dragon, and how it kinda looked in this?
Well, I think I just said, like, previously, I really liked it. I mean, one of my favorite parts was just whenever it breathed fire, like the fire coming up its neck, like I mentioned, like that was a cool detail. I feel like I have seen that somewhere. Like I feel like it's not like a
Mhm.
fully original idea, but I think it just adds that extra layer of like, I don't know, scariness to the dragon.
Yeah. I mean, aside
Um,
from the fire, if you like some of the close-ups of the dragon, like the scales and like how it has some like gold to it, uh, in its color and the detail on it, it's looked I've certainly watched plenty of movies with dragons in it, recently Dungeons& and Dragons movie, but then, prominently featured in, the Hobbit movies
yep.
were some dragons, and this dragon, like, the level of detail on it felt like second to none, like, it was, like, really and
Yeah.
it really was quite frightening,
Yeah.
like, at
I think I had the
times.
same thought. Like while watching this, I was like, wow, this is really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know if maybe that is if it's easy to make a cave, like, if maybe they save a little money doing that, because like, even the rest of it, like, showing this world they live in and stuff, like and you mentioned, like, the Hobbit movies, the kingdom they go to is, like, something out of Lord of the Rings, like, it's, like, this
Mhm.
spectacular kingdom, and all that looked really good. Like,
Did.
I was surprised how good everything looked in this movie. Nothing really Nothing jumped out to me while watching this where I was like, "Ooh, yikes," or, like,
Yeah.
watching Avatar. No, I mean, nothing made me cringe in Avatar, but there was definitely points where I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna bring that up on the podcast."
Yeah, yeah.
But watching this, nothing really. Even, like, that, like, final kind of fight they have where, she, like, stabs him, like, right in the eye, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, even that's kinda gruesome a little bit because 'cause I'm like, "Oh my
Sure.
oh god," like,
For sure.
yeah, this movie had a lot of ups and downs. I feel like it
Yeah.
is there's a lot of high
Speaking
points.
of ups and downs,
Oh,
I wanna
okay.
talk about, like, my favorite part of this movie,
Go for it.
which was, like, I think there was, like, a lot of quiet moments, a lot of fluff, and I actually don't mind quiet moments, and I do think that, like, most of it had a purpose. I think that some people are not gonna like that there were those quiet moments, as much, but really, I saw a few reviews where people were saying that they were bored for a lot of it. I didn't mind that so much. I thought it was quite an entertaining movie, but the plot that I liked, the piece that I liked was this, and I know people are like, "Oh, Disney's already doing it," and but I not like this. To me, this was like a elevated adult adult version of what Disney has done with like the twist on the damsel in distress.
Yeah.
And many people will be like, "All right, Disney's doing this with all of the new female roles in their empowerment and whatever." But like the fact that the script has like all of these princesses are being forced to basically be a sacrifice. She's learning from all of the other previous princesses. She clearly, as the movie goes on, she's like losing pieces of her like fluffy princess wedding dress, and becoming like more and more badass as the movie goes on. Like a part of her clothing gets like burned at one point, and like she by the time we're at the end of the movie, she's like she's looking really badass. She's
Yeah.
like basically just got like
She's
a
burned off her
corset on and like a
47 layers dress that they put
yes.
on.
Absolutely right. So she's like peeling off those layers the whole time. But the plot that's the coolest part of all of this is like learning from those princesses, eventually escaping, but also too making a decision to she does succeed
Mhm.
in slaying this dragon, and then decides like, no, I'm actually going to save you, and here's why. It's because I am not part of this bloodline.
Yeah.
And she finds out like that this dragon's actually pissed because they came and killed the dragon eggs, the
Yeah.
babies that were hatching in front of them. And so every generation they have to produce three princesses, and those princesses are the sacrifices that the dragon accepts. Instead of doing that, what they do is they poach other women from other kingdoms, use them for the sacrifices, cut open their son's hand, and clasp it on theirs,
Yep.
so they
They
have the
become blood
blood of
brothers.
the yeah, so they become blood brothers, and they become united, and she has the blood of royalty in her, and the dragon can sense that, and she's like, "Listen, I am not royalty. You've been duped, I've been duped.
Yep.
Let's go kick their ass."
Yeah.
And that's one of the coolest parts, and, like, I don't know, that plot line, I was into. I was like, "Yes, like, this is really cool, very clever," and the moment was very satisfying at the end, right? When,
Yeah.
like, Dragon shows up and she's like, "Oh, I'm not scary, but
Yeah. I
she
really
is."
like that they went that way where
Yeah,
they, yeah, they didn't just have her slay the dragon or, you know, she stabs it in its eye, like, she kind of, incapacitates it, like you said, and, like, she won, and then she
yeah,
shows mercy. I was like, is she just gonna be talking and then, like, show her mercy by killing? Like, "Oh, I'm so sorry I have to do this. We understand each other now." And I'm like, "Oh, no, like, she's just gonna go destroy this entire kingdom." And I love that, because like, the prince at a certain point tried to kind of kind of backtrack a little bit and be like, "Oh,
yeah,
I," like, kind of be, "Oh, I know this is wrong. I don't wanna do this."
and we could tell the prince is kinda like that at the beginning.
Yeah.
It doesn't excuse it,
No, he
but
still goes along with it.
no, he still goes along with it. His mom is clearly like the evil one. In fact,
Yeah.
like the king isn't even given like any screen time. Nobody gives a shit about the king.
Oh, that's
Um,
right, yeah, the king is like, "You might as well not be there."
no one cares. Um, so
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that king is just, like, non-existent, never
And
there.
then you know what? To double, which I also appreciated, even though I knew and recognized that maybe it was a little cheesy, is like they doubled down on the coolness of the last part of the movie, and they said, "Oh yeah, not only is that the epic part, but now she's gonna sail back to her kingdom, and when she does, she's gonna give a little smirk to the screen, and then on the side of the boat, you're gonna see the dragon flying next to it." And clearly that dragon's now like, "I'm rolling with Millie Bobby Brown.
Yep.
Let's do this."
Yeah, I love it now. Yeah, it's like she recruited the dragon essentially to be
Right.
like, "No, no, 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 no," because like the whole hold up, like you said, they have this argument of the dragon is kind of like, "No, no, no, humans killed my babies," kind of a thing. "You're all the same." And she's like, "No,
Mhm.
we're not. Like, a bunch of a-holes killed your babies. I'm not like them. My family's not like them. Most people aren't like them." And so it's she essentially turns into like Daenerys Targaryen, like from Game of
I
Thrones.
was like, "Oh, it's another mother of dragons."
Yeah, like she just turns into like the dragon lady.
Oh, we
But
forgot the whole part too, also where her, like, sister is dumped into the
oh
cavern as
yeah.
well, but then
Yeah,
it does
because
become a little convoluted, and I don't know.
yeah, that I feel like that was a part that like wasn't really needed. Like it led
Yeah.
to the end and like it was a way to get to that end.
It was a way to get to the end. She's going back in the cavern
Yeah, but
to save her sister.
why not just cut that part out and just have her go back
Right.
with the dragon and wreck shop the first time.
Yeah, the
Like,
first time. Right.
I don't know, like, that's, I guess, where they coulda saved a little time, but, like, I get it, it raises the stakes, it makes her she's not just thinking of herself, she's gonna go back. So, I get it, but I think it coulda gone without it. But, I mean,
Sure.
alright, so we've talked quite a bit about the movie, like, what were your thoughts? Like, how would you maybe not a number rating or anything, I mean, we could if we want, but how did you feel about this movie once you wrapped it up after you woke up from your nap?
Do you re do you remember when we did, Goosebumps for Halloween,
Yep.
in fall? So, I felt the same way about this movie that I felt about Goosebumps, where it was like, "Hey, I enjoyed that," but it was, like, not anything, like, super
Yep.
special or, like, also at the same time, I, like, don't have any ill will toward it. I'm like, "Nah, that did its thing. That entertained me for a little bit."
Burger, I think we are on the same exact page. As soon as you said Goosebumps, I'm like, "Yep, that sounds about right."
Yeah.
Like, it's not bad in any way. Like, it's got good visuals, it's got great actors, well-known actors, but, like, I didn't turn the movie off thinking like, "Oh, I gotta tell people to go watch Damsel." Like, "Oh, I gotta
Yeah.
ooh, this was great."
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be more like a Lord of the Rings, like an adventure epic, like where she had to maybe team up with people she found along the way or fight different demon or not demons, different monsters in this world or something. And it wasn't quite that, so I think that's my own expectations letting me down a little bit rather than the movie.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I definitely left this one like whelmed.
Yeah.
Like we turned it off and was just kinda like, "Well, it's over now." Like, it wasn't like, "Oh, let's wow, that was good, wasn't it?" It was just like, "Well, that was I will head to bed now, I guess." Like
Yeah. 100%. It was,
it seems to me like the
it
internet
was
kind of
like,
agrees with
it was like
us.
it was like good vanilla ice cream.
Oh, that's a good way actually, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Good vanilla ice cream.
Good vanilla ice
But
cream. You're like, "That was vanilla ice cream. Not
and to
bad."
some people, they're like, "It's the best flavor."
It's true, and I could totally see somebody seeing this movie and saying that. Like, that's
Yeah,
why
like
it's, like,
really big
middle of
Millie
the
Bobby
road.
Brown fans.
Yeah, it's a middle of the road movie, but I could also see someone I could see people watch this and be like, "Oh, that was trash," or, "Oh, that was my favorite movie of 2024."
Yeah,
But
I could
most
picture more
people
people saying it's trash.
Yeah, but most people are gonna be, like, somewhere on this, like, on the fence about it, and they're gonna feel, "Meh, okay,
Yeah.
that's
I think
understandable."
we're in the majority of,
Yeah,
like,
I think so.
because looking at just ratings online, we won't play a guessing game or anything for this one because I don't think we feel strongly enough to do that.
No.
But, like, IMDb is sitting at, like, a 6.1 out of 10. Uh, I will have you guess, what do you think's higher for Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter or the audience score? Because that's a tough one to me.
That's a tough one.
I will say it's relatively close. It's not a blowout.
Okay, uh, for some reason, my gut's telling me the user score's lower.
I would have guessed the same, but
It's not?
actually the tomato meter's at a 56 and the audience score's at a 63.
Okay, okay.
And then Metacritic is the lowest actually at a 46.
Whoa.
Yeah, but I feel like, that mid 60s to 7, something like that is fine. Like I
Yeah,
don't think I don't know, there's just something about it that's not letting me say like it's an 8 or something. I
no.
don't know why. I don't know if maybe it, like you said, it just dragged a little bit in weird spots or what, but yeah, there's something about it that's not letting me rank it really high in my head,
Nah.
and I can't
Nah, it's
pinpoint
like
it.
it's like a C letter
Yeah,
grade.
A C plus, but
I'm at a solid C. I don't think
alright.
I don't think that kid deserves the plus. I could tell you shoehorned this in just a little bit at the end.
Yeah. I can tell you ran this through ChatGPT, but you
I
gave it
could
some
feel your
effort.
mom helped you a little bit on this one,
Yeah.
bud.
Well, anything else you wanna talk about for this movie?
I have nothing else to talk about, John. I think that's the end of our one of our first YouTube episodes. So if you haven't listened to the podcast before, we've been going strong for a year and 4 months now.
Something like that. I think this is like our 63rd, 64th episode all in all, so
Yeah, so we're doing this video podcast now, but we've been doing audio for a solid year, releasing almost every week as we like
yep.
to say.
We had a
And
great streak going, we're trying to keep it relatively weekly. It fluctuates a little bit with our schedule, but we try to do weekly.
we do our best. So
Yeah.
we've been going strong for quite a while now. You can find us on any of the podcast apps if you want to listen to us over there, but you can obviously find us on YouTube now as well, which is very exciting. So that's brand new to us and the show. You can find us over at other social media sites like Instagram, and also, too, we have a Discord if you wanna join that as well. You just, hit us up at any of the social medias, and we will invite you to that. We will let you know about, upcoming episodes and all that kinda good stuff. So, that's been it for our episode of the Screened In Podcast. My name is Mike Berger. I said it right that time,
You messed up
and
your name twice. Oh my gosh.
and that's John Artigler. See you later, everybody.
Alright. Adios, everyone.